Welcome back to the Let Me Take You Higher podcast, where the strange and unexplainable lurk just beyond the edge of reason. I'm your host, Mr. Villain, and tonight, we're delving into the unsettling, the unexplained, and perhaps the unimaginable. Picture this: a knock at your front door, a child standing before you with pale skin, strange, outdated clothes, and eyes as black as marbles. Pitch black even, darker than night. Something inside you recoils, primal, instinctive. You're in danger. You don't know why, but you feel it all over your bones. But you know, something is there, but it is no child. You also know not to let them in. This is the tale of the black-eyed children and the stories of those who claim to encounter them. Fact, fiction, or maybe something in between. Tonight, we sift through the fear, unravel the myths, and try to make sense of this bone-chilling phenomena. Let's take a look, if you dare. Welcome back to Let Me Take You Higher podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Villain. Here's where it all begins. The black-eyed children are often described as young, usually between the ages of 6 and 16, who appear at the doors of unsuspecting people late at night, asking to be let in, sometimes to use a phone, sometimes for a ride, but always with the same unnerving request to be invited inside. Because you see, evil can't just appear. Someone had to first invite evil in. Their jet black eyes without whites or irises are the most consistent feature across all encounters. But why are they here? What happens if you decide to let them in? That's the part of the legend that no one seems to know for certain. Those who've encountered these children often describe a deep, inexplicable dread that grips them, something almost inhuman about these children. Are they ghosts, aliens, demons, or just a clever hoax designed to prey on our most primal fears? Let's rewind a bit. The story of the black-eyed children first gained traction in 1996 when a journalist named Brian Bethel shared his personal encounter online. He described an unsettling experience where two boys around the age of 9 or 10 approached him outside a movie theater asking for a ride. At first glance, they seemed normal until Bethel noticed their eyes were pure black. A wave of fear washed over him, and though they pleaded to be let in, Bethel's instincts screamed for him to drive away. Since that day, similar stories have cropped up worldwide, evolving into what we know now as the black-eyed children phenomenon. But here's the thing. There are older references to the black-eyed figures in folklore and mythology, often tied to demonic entities or cursed spirits. Ancient civilizations sometimes depicted children with pitch black eyes as omens of doom or harbingers of tragedy. In Japanese folklore, black-eyed children bear similarities to the eerie, restless spirits that bring death. Now, let's separate fact from fiction. There's no verifiable scientific evidence that these children even exist. Skeptics argue that stories like Bethel's are nothing more than modern day urban legends, fueled by the power of suggestion. Psychological phenomenon such as pareidolia, the brain's tendency to see faces or features in ambiguous stimuli, might also play a role. After all, in dim light or under stress, the brain can distort what we perceive. But for every skeptic, there's a believer with a chilling story, and that's where things get interesting. Are these reports purely anecdotal, or is there something lurking beneath the surface? Could this be a case of mass hysteria? Or is there a darker truth behind these encounters? True life stories. Let's go deeper. Now, for those of you who don't scare quite so easily, let's dive into the heart of the matter. Real life encounters. Brian Bethel's experience may have been the first, but it was far from the last. In this particular story, we'll call it The Knock at Midnight. In 2010, a woman from Vermont claimed she had a close encounter of her own. Late one evening, around midnight, there was a knock at her door. Upon opening it, she saw two children standing on her porch, a little boy and a little girl. They asked to come in, insisting they need to use the phone. Something about them seemed wrong, too stiff, too still. When she hesitated, the boy's eyes lifted to meet hers, and what she saw made her blood run cold. Solid black eyes staring back at her without emotion. Completely vapid expression. Terrified, she slammed the door shut and she peered out the window. The children had vanished into thin air. The uninvited passengers. Another man in rural Texas reported a similar incident in 2014. He was driving home late one evening when he saw the two figures standing by the roadside. They were children, both wearing hooded sweatshirts, their faces obscured. The man slowed down, feeling an overwhelming compulsion to stop and give any assistance or help that he could. But when the kids lifted their heads, revealing their black eyes, fear hit him like a physical force. Instead of stopping, he drove off in a rampage. He later claimed he felt their presence even after he left, as if they were watching him from somewhere, just out of sight. Now let's examine the theories swirling around these encounters. Many paranormal investigators and authors, like David Weatherly, believe the black-eyed children could be interdimensional beings, creatures that exist on the fringe of our reality, slipping in and out as they please. Others suggest these kids could be extraterrestrial in origin. Sighting the black eyes is a common feature in many UFO abduction stories. But on the other hand, skeptics like Joel Nickel from the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry believe these stories are no more than modern folklore, bolstered by the internet's ability to spread fear and fiction like wildfire. Sleep paralysis, Nickel argues, is a plausible explanation. People might experience terrifying, paralyzing hallucinations, often accompanied by feelings of an intense dread and strange figures. Let's play devil's advocate for a moment. Let's try to dig a little deeper into this. Could these sightings be nothing more than a social experiment? Or even a mass hallucination triggered by collective fear? The internet has an uncanny ability to turn small urban myths into massive viral phenomena. Some say these children are mere figments of our cultural anxieties, manifestations of our fear of the unknown, of helplessness, or perhaps the loss of innocence in modern times. But Why do we fear these children so much? What is it about their eyes, their unnatural calm, that rouse us to our core? It could be rooted in our instinct to trust children as vulnerable and innocent and very impressionable. When that expectation is subverted, when something so harmless becomes some utterly wrong phenomena, it shakes the very foundation of what we believe about the world. The concept of the uncanny valley might often some insight here. The more human something appears, yet somehow deviates from what we know to be natural, the more unsettled we feel. The black-eyed children fit perfectly into this psychological category. So what's the takeaway from all of this? Whether you believe in the existence of black-eyed children or chalk them up to the imagination running wild, one thing's for certain. These stories tap into a primal fear, a fear that something innocent could be anything but. We've always been captivated by the supernatural, especially when it involves children who are off in some way. Perhaps these stories are a reflection of our deepest anxieties: fear of the unknown, fear of losing control, or fear of letting something dangerous into our lives without even realizing it. And there you have it. Dear listeners, if you hear a knock on your door late at night and a child, no matter how innocent, asks to be let inside, take my advice. Don't open the door. I'm Mr. Villain, and I'll be back soon with another late night tale of the strange, the bizarre, and the downright terrifying. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, stay skeptical, and most of all, we want to see you wake in the morning. Good night.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Let Me Take You Higher, the podcast. Big thanks to our special guests, and a huge shout out to our incredible sponsors. You guys are literally the wind beneath our podcast wings. Remember, this show was dreamed up and brought to life by yours truly, Mr. Villain, and it's all made possible by BC Entertainment LLC, a proud subsidiary of Big Cheddar Music LLC. All rights are reserved by BC Entertainment, so don't even think about touching that dial without permission. Until next time, keep your minds elevated and your vibes higher. This is Mr. Villain signing off. Stay tuned, stay sharp, and stay forever gifted and lifted.
Storms rage, the skies grow dim. We gather the shards, piece by piece within. Through tears and trials, we find our might. Let me take you higher toward the light. Let me take you higher beyond the pain. Where broken dreams mend and hope remains. We'll rise from ashes like a phoenix bold. In the symphony of resilience, our stories unfold. When life storms rage and skies grow dim, we gather the shards piece by piece within. Through tears and trials, we find our might. Let me take you higher toward the light. Let me take you higher beyond the pain. Where broken dreams mend and hope remains. We'll rise from ashes like a audience, our stories unfold.